Our program speaker is Dick Thomas. He's the director of Piedmont Environmental Center, a jewel resource for our community. I had the pleasure of experience one of Peck's weekend camping and kayak trips led by Dick to New Bern. I highly recommend the Peck adventure. Dick grew up in Ohio. He received his BA in biology at Hiram College and MS in environmental science from Antioch University. He was formerly a naturalist for 10 years with North Carolina State Parks before becoming the director of Peck in 1988. I present to you Dick Thomas.
Thank you, Terry. And Nancy, thank you. I really appreciate an opportunity to come and talk with you about forest bathing and a little bit about Piedmont Environmental Center. Most of you know about Piedmont Environmental Center. Nevertheless, a reminder, we have a 400-acre nature preserve here, 8 miles, a little over 8 miles of forest trails. The Bicentennial Greenway and High Point Greenway meet here for a total of 21 miles of greenway. So you can get on the Bicentennial Greenway here and make it all the way to Battleground Park. If you go south, you go on the High Point Greenway, and I think Ken can vouch for this. It's probably as pretty a stretch of greenway as there is in the state of North Carolina. About a half a mile of it is boardwalk that rises fully 12 feet off of the floor of a floodplain forest. And in the spring, you're at just the right elevation to see songbirds and just have a really nice panoramic view of this floodplain swamp forest. It is, if you haven't been on it yet, I urge you to come here, Piedmont Environmental Center, jump on it. You will be happy that you did. To launch into tonight's topic, COVID did what none of us could do, and that is get people outdoors. I mean, it's been remarkable, hasn't it? I mean, I know you guys have been out on trails and you and probably stay on trails as much as I do. We have been overwhelmed with the number of hikers that we experience. You give us a week of dry weather and we'll have a couple thousand people using our trails. And now remember, the High Point Greenway and the Bicentennial Greenway converge here. So we've got greenway users, and then we have our natural trails that run through the forest. And it has just been absolutely amazing. And I think people have realized that the healthiest place to be during this horrible epidemic has been outside. Obviously, air exchange, few communicable surfaces, and that has just driven tremendous numbers of people outdoors. But you know what I see is what I know you see, and that is people plugged in with their earbuds, listening to music, and while they're getting a physical benefit from walking and hiking, they could be getting so much more. And with that, I introduced Shinrin Yoku, and that is a Japanese term that was coined in 1982 that literally translates into, in Japanese, translates into forest bathing. Shinrin is Japanese for forest. Yoku is Japanese for bathing. And that and urushiol are the only words I know in Japanese. Urushiol, I see Ken smiling. That's the oil that's secreted by toxodendron species, poison oak, poison ivy, and poison sumac. That's the only Japanese I know. But that term, Shinrin Yuko, was coined in 1982, forest bathing, and it recognizes the health benefits of spending time outdoors. But you know, going all the way back to Greek philosophers, we've known that there have been great healing qualities and benefits to spending time outdoors, all the way back to Greek philosophers. And then in the 19th century, the Transcendentalist movement with Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. A little bit later, but still in that century, John Muir spoke vociferously about the healing qualities of being in nature. And then more recently, E.O. Wilson at Harvard, who came up with the idea that he calls biophilia hypothesis, where he believes that the reason why we love nature is because we have an innate relationship. We feel an innate relationship with nature. And going to Howard and Eugene Odoms, you remember them, of course, Ken, they and all these other people spoke about relationship, that human beings, mankind, human beings have a relationship with nature. And I don't really, and I'm being very presumptuous here. I'm not sure that we have a relationship with nature. And I'm not sure that we want a relationship with nature, because nature is what we are. Nature is what we are. When you have a relationship with somebody, you and that other are different. And it's through the relationship that you care about that individual. It's through that relationship that you communicate with that individual. It's through that relationship that you recognize and hopefully celebrate your differences. And if you don't celebrate your differences, it's through that relationship that you compromise or you work through those differences. You and that other are different. We don't have a relationship with nature. We are nature. That is exactly what we are. And some of you may say, well, that's semantical. That's just words. We form concepts and ideas and understandings through our language. And I think it's important. I know when I now go into nature, I think and I realize that I'm going into my larger self. And considering that perspective is really awesome, because when you see a sunrise, that's all the potential that you have in your life. All of the marvelous interrelationships that we discover and that inspire us in the natural world. It's the same strategy in human communities. It's these interrelationships that hold everything together, because that is what we are. And we could spend, I see Ken nodding, we could spend hours and hours and hours identifying the myriad ways that we are nature, and that we don't have a relationship with nature. It is what we are. And I think carrying that attitude, that perspective, that meditation, so to speak, into nature, when you immerse yourself in that, you immerse yourself in your larger self, and Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, takes on greater significance. Forest bathing is when you go into nature in a mindful way. You focus your awareness, you focus your attention on each moment. And you know what we like to do, especially with younger students, is that we like to take our students out, the younger students out in the woods, and develop a handful of sounds. And you can do the same thing as you are exploring the natural world. You listen, and you can count the different sounds that you hear. Close your eyes, concentrate on hearing what you can hear, and most importantly, perhaps, hear the silence around those sounds. And that will promote a that will promote a strong awareness and mindfulness of that moment. And the healing powers of this have been actually confirmed through science dating back probably before the 80s. But I know that there is a whole series of studies through the 80s from Texas A&M. A Robert Ilrick studied the effects of seeing nature through hospital windows. And this was a longitudinal study that may still be going on, but I know it ran through the 80s. And their studies from Texas A&M showed that the patients in hospital rooms that had a view of gardens, that had a view of the tops of trees outside their windows, had a shorter healing time. And they also demonstrated that pain levels were less. And I remember reading those studies, or a couple of them, back in the 80s. And I actually used some of that information to gain support for Piedmont Environmental Center through grant writing when I first came here. So it's been demonstrated through studies like that, but it's also been demonstrated that cortisol levels. Cortisol is a hormone that's secreted by adrenal glands, which in human beings, I think, lie just anterior to the kidney. The cortisol levels in our blood for people who spend time in the natural world, particularly who spend time mindfully exploring the natural world, is much higher than people who don't. And cortisol is a hormone that is involved in sugar metabolism. It helps prevent inflammatory disease. It helps with allergies. It shows a lot of biological activity in our blood system. And that hormone, as I said, has been shown to be at higher levels in people who spend time in the natural world, particularly people who spend time mindfully exploring the natural world. And I underline that because, as I mentioned when I first started, we are seeing so many people outside, and I'm grateful for that. I truly am grateful. COVID did what I couldn't do, but they're plugged in, and they're not hearing the birds. They're not smelling the odors that are delightful that we encounter, particularly in the spring, and as the summer warms up the litter and the ground, you get these rich, wonderful odors. And hopefully at some point people will unplug, because the majority of them are. When I go out on our trails, when I walk the Greenway, I do little anecdotal observations, and the majority of people are plugged in. There are other benefits outside of cortisol levels in our blood that rise as we spend time in nature. There's and Ken knows this all too well. There are chemicals known as phytoncides that are given off by trees, and these are aromatic oils that have been shown clinically to be important in a variety of providing a variety of benefits. Heart rates, they've been shown to have biological activity for cancer and also inflammatory disease. And we're breathing these chemicals when we are spending time in the forest. But you can forest bathe in a variety of environments. You can do it at botanical gardens. I saw that somebody was joining us tonight from a botanical garden in Charlotte. Forgive me, I can't recall your name right off, but you can, now you may be a little conspicuous in a botanical garden doing this, but maybe that'll help spread the word. I know I am a paddler, and I have a very nice kayak, admittedly. And when I paddle, I close my eyes and I can feel the water dripping off of my paddle, and I can feel my boat, the water slide from under my boat as I'm pulling myself through the water. So that is, in a sense, forest bathing, because I am mindful, I am intimately in contact with that environment. And of course, I am always listening for birds when I paddle, and it is a wonderful thing. Last, some 12, 15 years ago, I planned a camping trip, 10 days paddling through Lake Temagami, Diamond Lake, and Lady Evelyn in Northern Ontario. And when I told my cousin about the trip I was planning, he said, man, you can get a disc player and put earbuds in, and you can paddle for days and days. And I looked at him and I said, but I won't be able to hear the birds. And he looked at me with this look as if to say, well, that's my queer cousin. Who else would say something like that? But it's true. You can forest bathe in a variety of environments. And I know that people forest bathe in groups, but you know, Ken, I keep mentioning you because I see you at the top of my screen. But 2 weeks ago, you and I had a conversation about some of the challenges of leading people on nature hikes. And when you're with a group, regardless of how focused people are, if you're looking for migrants or if you're enjoying, if you're botanizing, these kinds of events oftentimes become social. And there are just lots and lots of social distractions when you are in a group. And to me, I always forest bathe by myself. I've never tried to do it with a group, but I would think that it would be a little more problematic, certainly, than if you were doing it by yourself, because of the mindfulness. You have really to be mindful, focusing your awareness, focusing your attention on the moment, and that helps rid your mind of unwanted thoughts and focuses your attention so beautifully on the plants and the animals that we share the planet with. And when you do that, you feel a transformation. And I mean that literally. You feel a transformation. And that to me is harkens all the way back to what those early Greek philosophers referred to. And now we're seeing it. Science confirms this every day, that we have come out of this earth, that is what we are. And when we forest bathe, we go into our larger self.